Good afternoon. Thank you for attending the Princeton Review, Tutor.com's Lunch and Learn. And I'm excited about this Lunch and Learn today because we have two outstanding districts with us today about their experience with providing K-12 on-demand tutoring for diverse communities. My name is Tanya Walker, and I am the Senior Executive Director for K-12 State Partnerships. And I work with districts to provide solutions for their students in regards to online tutoring and as well as with test prep. And with us today, we're talking a little bit about what Tutor.com, an overview, and Clayton County and Rockdale Public Schools will give us just a little snippet about who they are in their district. And then we will come into the meat of the webinar. Well, I will then ask them several questions in regards to strategies for implementing an on-demand program. What issues or challenges does Tutor.com solve for them? So relax, please participate. Put as many questions as you want in the chat because, as you know, you get out what you put in. So please participate in the webinar with all of your questions. So now I would like to introduce you to Kimberly Hunter and Angela Hutton from Clayton County and Rockdale County. And Ms. Hutton, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, good morning. I am Angela Hutton. I am Clayton County's K-12 intervention lead. I oversee all of the intervention programs in our district. We have 67 schools, so I oversee all of the reading and math intervention programs within the district.
Thank you.
I've been an educator for 23 years, and all of 23 years, I've been in Clayton County.
Oh, that's awesome. All 23 years. So you know all the schools, you know all the teachers, the principals, you know all the families, I'm sure.
All of the families, yeah.
And Ms. Hunter.
Good afternoon. I'm Kimberly Hunter. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Middle Schools here in Rockdale County Public Schools. I think I'm right there with Angela. I'm at 24 years, I believe. I've worked in Florida, DeKalb, spent all my leadership career with about 14 years of leadership in Cobb County schools, and I've been here going on 4 or 5 years. And I oversee and support middle schools instructionally and operationally, and of course, I supervise the principals as well at the middle school level.
So basically what you're saying today is that we have a combined almost 50 years of experience in education, about 47 years. So, which is great because we have almost 50 years of experience. And as they just stated, they've been in this role for over 20 years. So please pull and ask questions that you might from this wealth of knowledge that we have on the panel today. But before they start, I want to just give you a brief introduction on who we are with the Princeton Review and Tutor.com. Next slide. So Tutor.com, or the Princeton Review, Tutor.com, we are two trusted partners with two brands, but it's one company. Some of you may be familiar with the Princeton Review, and we have a lot of educators on the call with us today. So you probably remember taking the SAT yourself or so you're familiar with the Princeton Review assisting students with test prep. Well, we also provide online tutoring, which is our Tutor.com, which is 24/7 tutoring. And to be quite honest with you, most districts did not understand or know that we existed until after the pandemic. And so after the pandemic is when we became a really big solution for a lot of our districts are looking for ways to help combat learning loss for their students. So that's where you see it's two brands, but it's one company. So a brief overview of what Tutor.com is, because we will speak specifically about today. Tutor.com provides 24/7 support for your students for academic online tutoring in over 200 subjects. What distinguishes us a lot from other companies is that students have the ability to provide voice. They can actually speak to a tutor. We have tutors that are in different languages. And the other thing that differentiates us from other partners is that we have the Princeton Review test prep for SAT and ACT that are also included in Tutor.com. it is very important for us to make sure that we are putting a content specialist in front of our students, because we understand that right now with a lot of our teachers, teachers that are resigning, that we want to make sure that we are providing your students with some support where the tutors have the content knowledge for their to provide the best solutions for their students. And we do that because we pride ourselves in how we vet our tutors. We vet our tutors next slide. We vet our tutors in a way where the tutors must take an exam. They must take a subject exam in each particular subject that they want to tutor. And we have over 100 and 150 registrants, those who actually want to become a tutor with us, but in actuality, less than 2% of them actually become a tutor with us because they must take an exam. Then we must vet them in regards to, can you work well with students? You're very knowledgeable in the subject, but can you manage working with students? Can you manage technology very well? Are you engaging? All of those different points are put in place, as well as extensive background checks that we provide for each of our tutors. So we make sure that when we're representing Tutor.com and we're putting students in front of tutors, that we have someone that's been vetted, that knows the subject matter, and has actually been vetted in regards to all of their the background checks. So we pride ourselves in the fact that we have some of the best tutors that have been around. I go on to Tutor.com and I go in and there's an option where you can actually select a tutor who has the highest reviews. Where there's one tutor on there that has over 5,000 reviews from students, and he has about a 5-star rating. So it says a lot about our tutors and how much they are committed to bringing the best service to your students. Next slide, please. Again, what makes us a little different, we have the ability for students to not only work in a classroom where they can, share files, they can work with the tutor themselves in a class board, but they have the ability to actually speak to the tutor. So this is especially beneficial for our younger students and or for our English learners, for them to actually have the option to speak to a tutor. Next slide, please. And then the other benefit, I keep saying there's so many benefits, but our tutor drop-off. Now, I wish this was something that I had when I was in high school. I really do. I wish I had this in high school or in college for that matter, but your students can actually drop off a writing sample, let it be an essay or the college application. They can drop it off and they can actually get a review with fewer than 12 hours. Or they have the option to upload their essay and they can work directly with a tutor line by line and get feedback. There's a summary feedback that is provided for your students. And this is a really good option for some of your English teachers who are looking for students to provide them with their first draft. So they can actually drop this off, get a first draft, make their edits, and then submit to their teachers. But one of our greatest assets here, this program, is this drop-off service for our students. Next slide, please. So I've given you just a very brief overview of Tutor.com. 24-hour service, over 200 different subjects, vetted tutors, partnerships around the world, because we have partnerships not only with districts, but also higher ed institutions, libraries, and the military. We are with Tutor.com. We also provide the Princeton Review Test Prep. It is an all-around subject or supplemental program to help support your students. So now, this is what you really want to hear. You wanted to hear from districts that are actually partnering with us, and you want to know what is their assessment of the program, what drives them, why are they have they partnered with the Princeton Review, Tutor.com. So I'm going to start with Ms. Hunter. And both Ms. Hunter and Ms. Hutton will answer the questions. The first question I have for you is, what strategies has your district implemented to encourage student usage of Tutor.com? And I ask this question because oftentimes when you're implementing a new program, You want to make sure that students use it. You want to make sure they use it. And so as you started implementing, and you've implemented Tutor.com for 2 years, what have you put in place to encourage students to use Tutor.com?
I would say with our rollout, we first started with our leaders, making sure our leaders were aware of it, getting there, gaining their feedback and understanding. From that point, we then, when we had our open house and things of that nature as the year kicked off, we made sure it was available. There are handouts that Tutor.com will provide for you that you can adjust as need be and make sure your students and your parents are educated on it. What you will often find when you push it out in the beginning of the school year, parents are overwhelmed. So they may say it's a great idea, but they don't utilize it. So then we started pushing it out when grade reports will come out. So when progress reports come out, paired with that, because parents will often ask, how can I assist my student? We also pair it with that to say, hey, don't forget Tutor.com is available to our students, and it makes it so that everybody has equitable access. I will also say we have a Tutor.com landing page that talks about instructional supports. And then all of our schools have, on their websites as well, as this is something I can partner with your student because it does have the 24-hour access.
Thank you. And what about you, Ms. Hutton? What strategies have you put in place? Thank you, Ms. Hunter.
So for us, this is our third full year with Tutor.com. We started with a group of schools. We pilot schools. So we started with 16 schools. And we started because we were just coming out of the 2-year hiatus with, of course, COVID. So we needed something that will, reinforce some of the skills, learning loss that took place during that time. So when we targeted those schools, we decided to place 2 very important persons at each school. We had a site contact person and our parent liaisons. Those are the persons that were pushing it out at the school level, and our parent liaisons pushed it out to our parents. Once we got the buy-in from our parents, we began to see a high usage for our students, particularly in our Hispanic population. Oftentimes those parents have a hard time assisting students with homework. So it was great to see the increased usage with our Hispanic students. And the great thing about that is that some of the tutors are bilingual. So it really helped those students. Another strategy that we used, we sent out emails asking all of the school leaders, the principals, assistant principals, and our contacts to do a 1-day sign-on. So the entire district chose a day where the entire school signed on just to make sure that students were able to navigate through this platform. So that was very successful. I did go in, I looked at the data, and for the most part, the majority of the schools did have a 1-day sign-on. And that way we were able to alleviate the issues when they went home because they knew how to navigate through the platform.
Awesome. Now, do you provide that 1-day sign-on each year? Is that something that you do every year because you have new students and new staff?
Every year. And then this upcoming year, 23-24, we'll have multiple 1-day sign-ons for the entire school.
Great, great. Those are great strategies that you guys have put in place. And I hope everyone's writing these down because I know I am. So the second question. Next slide there, Mercedes. We want to put the next slide so that everyone can actually see the questions. But so Ms. Hunter, you've actually had Tutor.com for 2 years. Ms. Hutton has actually had it for 3 years. So what issues or what is Tutor.com solve for your district? Why do you continue to use it, and what does it help to solve in your district?
For me, the biggest thing is the access, regardless of students' home situations or even parents' familiarization with the content. Students are able to gain access to someone to tutor them, to be very personalized to them at any time of the day. I'm a parent here as well. Last year when we first rolled it out, I had 3 students in the district. Now I only have 2. One has graduated, but it's anytime they wanted to gain access and have some personalized help and assistance, they were able to gain with their tutor who was, whether it be verbal, whether it be through texting, being the texting app, the messaging app rather, as well as it, with this day and time, our teachers are very tired. They're working very hard to address the gaps that are existing since with COVID and our regular learning gaps that do exist with our students at times. And so we're taking the opportunity, if we can't find a tutor, perhaps for AP Lit, perhaps for AP Gov or Econ, it allows them to have someone who has access to them. So we still have our face-to-face tutoring that happens. This is just another supplemental tool that our students are able to use. If it's midnight, if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, they're able to get their work done. And having some seniors sometimes it is midnight when they're working on their homework, so it's great.
Yeah, Miss Hutton.
And for Clayton County, it's kind of sort of the same issues with Rockdale County. One issue that we know is resolving at this point is the paper writing drop off. We've had some large issues with just making sure we're developing writers. And so most of our middle schools, they do large drop offs with your writing center. And we've seen drastic improvements with writing in those middle schools. To the point where Tutor.com reached out to me and say, hey, Angela, what are you guys doing? We have an influx. So please let that school know that we're getting back to them, but we have over 1,000 drop-offs in one day. So just making sure, we're making sure we're utilizing it in that capacity. Another thing is that I mentioned before our Hispanic population, because we have a large Hispanic population. I think that this tool is so imperative for those families, where on Saturdays, after schools, before school, during school, because Clayton used it during school as well. It is helping those that population of students. It's also helping those students who we found we have 2 schools that are very high performing high schools, and those students are usually tapping in using the AP courses where they are getting assistance with their advanced placement courses. So when I look at the data, I'm so excited to see that we are solving some of the issues that we know arise in our district.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because the third question, and when we get to this, we can skip it, but the third question was, how are you currently utilizing the program? And it sounds like you're using it in different ways, especially when it comes to the writing. I know at Clayton County, Ms. Hutton, that you're also utilizing the program during the school day. Can you tell us a little bit more how you're using it during the school day?
So great, yeah. So during the school day, we did develop this year we asked Tutor.com, is there any way we can get I wouldn't say an influx of tutors during the day, but we did start using it. It's in our small group instruction. I had a few schools that I pilot for elementary, where they will request a tutor probably 2 to 3 days in advance. And then on the time that they needed the tutor, they'll come in, the teachers will sit about 4 students around the table. The tutor will come on. We will give the tutor either the skill or the standard, and then the tutor will work with those students for a short period of time. So that is that was very promising for us at some of the schools. And then the second thing is that we currently are in talks with high dosage tutoring from Tutor.com. So that's something we're bringing on board next school year, where we will have a set time where tutors are coming in doing high dosage tutoring for our students in the district. So I'm excited about that part as well. So the utilization of Tutor.com for Clayton has been grand for us. We just want to make sure that we are extending it. Unlike Kimberly, we rolled it out initially at the level of the school contacts, and we didn't with the principals. So this year we did go back and make sure that the principals were fully aware of the usage of the program. And then some principals, we've definitely gotten the buy-in. So we do see increased usage.
We are excited about high dosage tutoring with you this coming up, because that will allow us to be able to target those students in algebra and be bringing 3 to 4 students together at one time and target tutoring for them up to 3 times a week. So we are excited about that. And what is so unique about having both Rockdale and Clayton County, because they've used Tutor.com for 2 to 3 years, and they're using it in different ways. So Ms. Hunter, you mentioned to me yesterday how some of your language arts teachers are using it as a first draft. Can you tell us a bit more about how they're using it in that way?
Sure. So we have some of our language arts teachers that have collaboratively planned to submit their first draft of writing. So it's allowed the students to receive feedback. And we talked about some asked where the rubrics align to how the state, when we said it's really about just getting that initial feedback, making sure students are able to submit a better quality draft to their teachers. Therefore, the teachers can go more in depth with the standards and provide better guidance. And so it's allowing students to unpack more and also be aware of their writing and seeing what the feedback is. So some teachers might say, hey, under structure, what was the feedback there? What did you do to change it? What was your thought? So having an awareness of their writing has been very important. It's still been very timely in the responses when the teachers used it. I also, as a parent, on the parent side, my daughters have used it for their writing as well when they wanted feedback. And I must say, it doesn't give them the answers. It just leads them to think. It allows them to be more critical in their thought process. Also, the feedback can be used with other writing. So I like that part of it as well. It's not just this one piece of writing anchored here. It really is, as you write, think about this, consider this as you write other things as well. So it's been very helpful for our students and then as parents.
Got it. Thank you. So Mercedes, number 4, I think we've answered the number 4 question, which was specifically in regards to actually, I take that back. Usage reports. Ms. Hutton, you mentioned about your principals. They look at the usage reports. What are they? So usages, is that very important to you? Tell me more about your usage reports and how your principals use it.
Okay, so the usage reports, initially what we do is the reports are sent to myself and the superintendent of teaching and learning. We look at the reports, we look at the most highly requested subject areas. We narrow it down to the schools, and then we send the reports over to the content coordinators. It is the responsibility of the content coordinators to get with the school leaders and those department heads to say, hey, we're noticing that you have a group of students that's requesting biology every night. And then they drill it down to that particular teacher. And then we begin to say, hey, maybe we need to offer some professional development for that teacher because this group of students is requesting the same thing over and over each night. So that's one way we do use it. Another way we use it is going back to the writing piece, as Rockdale has mentioned. We kind of use it to, once Tutor.com give the students their feedback, we ask the students, they print them off, they turn them into their teachers so the teachers can see the feedback that is given. And this is very helpful for those teachers who are brand new teachers in our district, where we have to marry pedagogy and content knowledge. So the teachers have a clear understanding of what the writing process looked like because they've gotten this feedback. So they can match their feedback to the feedback that is given by Tutor.com so that the students can develop strong writing skills and perfect, anything that they need to change on those writings. So it's very informative, these usage reports for us.
I like to hear that you're especially for your first your teachers, that they're receiving this report, giving some direct feedback. Miss Hunter, I know you had a really good analogy about insurance, and we talked a little bit about usage versus equity and access. Can you tell us a little bit how you use usage reports, if that is a part of the program that you like to utilize?
So I look at usage in totality, of course, from a budget standpoint, right? The use of it and who's impacting and things of that nature. So I do look at when we have our ebbs and flows, when it's higher usage and things of that nature, and just making sure we're gaining more access for all of our students. When I talked about insurance, I said, we all have insurance. And so that's kind of what Tutor.com provides. It's that safety net from back in AYP days, that safety net for all students, that they're able to have access to additional personalized instruction at any time of the day. You may not use it every day, but our students knowing that it's something that's there, it's crucial for our students. The more, what we found, once a student uses it, they are repeat users. You'll see that some of our highest, once they get comfortable with it and they find the success, because that also works on their self-esteem, having the ability to go home and not, be, too upset about a problem that they can't solve on their own. It really builds their self-esteem to be able to come in and have a good understanding of the content. So it's the insurance we provide for all of our students to have equal access. And then they utilize it when needed. The worst part is that we pay for insurance and it's there, but when we really need it and you don't have it, then we all know it's very costly. And for our students, it's academically costly, which is, an issue for all of us because we're here to make sure our students are successful.
Thank you. I love that. So maybe we should think about a tagline, Tutor.com, the insurance for all, or something.
Insurance for all, right.
Insurance for all. So Mercedes, I want to go to question number 6, because I think we answered number 5, unless Ms. Hutton and Ms. Hunter want to elaborate on that. But we talked extensively, I think, about the 24-hour drop off. But what impact has this had on your students and families? And Ms. Hutton, I know that you have a family liaison at each one of your schools, and we've had training for your parent liaison. I was a parent liaisons,
Parent.
parent liaisons, and you spoke about some of your students. Have you heard any feedback from your families about Tutor.com, the impact for them?
Yes, I'm glad you asked. So once we trained the parent liaisons and Tanya came into our district to assist us with that training. Once we began training the parent liaisons began adding me to their meetings with parents. So I will either go out to their parent center when they invite their parents out monthly, or we will do a Zoom call where I'm answering questions for parents. Parents are saying, hey, this is a wonderful tool. All of the subject areas that we're able to access with the platform. So I can say for the most part, the parents that I have encountered, either in person or on Zoom, praises the program and praises the platform, praises the tool, and just say, hey, I hope that this is something that will stick around because it is very helpful for my students. So I do seriously think that the students and the families are very appreciative, especially the ones who use it all the time. We have repeat offenders. We do have a few students that have reached out to me and say, hey, I like this particular tutor. I request this tutor all the time. And that tutor they've worked with that student night after night, time after time. So I think that is the most important piece for us as well, getting that tutor that you really like and you really understand, and you're able to, through Tutor.com, request that same tutor time after time. So that's a big impact especially for our elementary students, because parents are a little leery. And I know that those tutors are background checked to the highest level, but parents are still comfortable with seeing that same tutor pop up on, the screen every night for their students. So very impactful for us.
Awesome. On the reports, they actually have comments from students. Do you read through those comments that the students have on there?
Yes, and not only do we read through them, I send them out to principals. So we do a screenshot, we send in, we praise our high usage schools. And at the bottom of that report that I send out, we send in snippets of the students, the things that they say. And some things are so hilarious, but for the most part, we do have almost 99% 5-star rating from our students.
Awesome. Awesome. And Ms. Hunter, your thoughts on your families and students, and because you're a parent, and here's the thing, you're wearing two hats from the administrator's perspective, and you're a parent in the district with someone that's using it.
Right. And the funny thing about it, before we actually signed a contract with Tutor.com, we had a trial, right? And once I had the trial and I figured out as a parent how great it was, I would send it out to everybody in the district. Hey, your child should try this too, until, we bought it as a district. But as a parent, I definitely was even sending the superintendent, hey, your daughter might want to try this too while we have the trial to see if you like it. But I will say I've had students feedback that they've enjoyed it. And teachers have also talked about how useful it is for their students. What I will say I haven't spoken to parents, but on the safety side, I will say that we've had some of ours, sometimes in the middle of the nights when our students want someone to talk to. And we've had quite a few instances where our students have perhaps had conversations that was a cry for help on the safety side. Not that they were being hurt at home, but they weren't feeling good about themselves. They were having ideas of self-harm. And I will say on the safety side, Tutor.com will tell them if it's inappropriate, or we'll be supportive and let the school system know. So from a parent perspective, we've been able to react on the school side to provide interventions and safety for the mental health of our students. And we don't want it to be, that's not what Tutor.com is, but I will say when it has occurred, they've been very responsive to let us know. And so as a parent, they've been grateful for the fact that maybe they didn't know their child was struggling with something. So, even though the students do gain access to adults who are highly vetted, it also is a wonderful tool if a student is in crisis, not to call for crisis, but if they're in crisis. I will say the wonderful part is that Tutor.com immediately alerts you and lets you know, and then we're able to react as well.
Thank you. Ms. Hutton, it seemed like you wanted to add something to that. I see you're shaking your head.
I know, I could not agree more with Kimberly. We do the same thing. You guys send us the alerts, and we send the alerts directly to the principals, and the principals will get with their counseling department, and we kind of reach out to those parents just to make sure that we're treating everything as serious as possible, because we never know when it is truly a situation where attention is needed. So we are very thankful. Every time they come through our email, we are emailing you guys back, Tanya, saying, hey, thank you so much for catching this. And the principals are definitely thankful when we send them out to them. So they jump right on it. It is within minutes when they email us back and say, hey, we've spoken with the student, all is well, and then we move forward.
That's very helpful to know, because like Ms. Hunter stated, it's 2 a.m. and sometimes they just want someone else to talk to. Ms. Hunter, how does the program support your teachers? How does question number 7, how does the Tutor.com support teachers from your district?
It allows for them to, if they are not available after school, to provide tutoring, to say, hey, don't forget about this tool. I would say instructionally, because our teachers don't have, so we're a little bit different based on our privacy. Our teachers are not able to go in and actually access where students are. That's just the way our technology department has built it for us, but it allows them to have a supplemental resource to say, hey, this is a trusted source. If you need additional help, please feel free to go there. Remember, we also have times where teachers are out, whether it was COVID, whether it be the flu, and we had a sub in there. We want them to be certified in the content, but at this day and time, that's not always guaranteed. And so if a sub is trying to teach the content and maybe not clear on it, you also have you have a person who's proficient in the content available to them at any time of the day. So it's not in lieu of the teacher, but if there isn't a teacher there and we have some discrepancies in the content, it could be a tool to be used there. And then, like I said, allow students to have productive struggle as well, for them to be at home and have that productive struggle. And then enrichment, I must say, I've also, as a parent, seen it used as enrichment. I've had students test with an assessment, whether it be our STAR assessment, which gives you where they are benchmark at this current time. And if the student is above grade level, as a parent, my daughter was given something that she had never been taught in class. And the teacher said, hey, I want you to research more about this and try this problem. And it was cool. She could go to Tutor.com to have that struggle and also be stretched, independently. So it allows for differentiation as well for teachers.
You mentioned productive struggle, and you are reading ahead, because that is actually the 8th question, because I love that term, productive struggle, so that the next question after that will ask about productive struggle. Ms. Hutton, tell me more about how does it support your teachers? Because let's be honest, teachers they're overwhelmed. There's so much that they're expected to do now. We have the burnout. It is around the country. How does this help your teachers? And you elaborated a little bit earlier in regards to your first year teachers. So how does this work in your district?
So yes, I did mention it earlier, where we do have a lot of first year teachers who content mastery, content knowledge is not where we want it to be. Of course, you couple that with pedagogy, and they just need that additional support. Like Rockdale County, our teachers do not have access to their own accounts, but we do push out the data to them through content coordinators and school leaders. What I did want to shine light on is that we have a virtual academy where we have a group of students who are still learning from home, and these are these are students who have been home since COVID. So we do offer that virtual, and I work in conjunction with that executive director who's over the virtual program, and they use it faithfully in twofolds, because the teaching again is through virtual learning, and whatever is not covered during that day, those teachers are encouraged to encourage the students to go home and request tutoring in a subject or skill that they did not feel comfortable with teaching, or the students didn't master those skills. So we do see it being very successful in our virtual program. We also have an alternative program, and those are our students who have reached a capacity of being seniors and didn't quite graduate. So they are in another academy that we have, and we are seeing an increase of usage from those students as well, because most of those students are working from home as well, or they'll go onto our campus to receive instruction from a teacher. So we are seeing now a high usage from both of those academies, which are both pretty much virtual. So that is exciting for us. Our Title I director just reached out to me. We have students that are in group homes. So now our group home students are using Tutor.com as well.
Wow.
And we just got them started a few weeks ago with really utilizing the platform. So we're excited that we're reaching all of our students in our district.
And that's a question that just popped up when you said that. Are you serving all of your students or just a cohort of your students? And how did your students get access? Is there just a single sign-on? Can you tell us how they're getting access?
Right. So in Clayton, we have a single sign-on. It is called Rapid Identity, where the students are going in and they just click on the icon and their personal account is automatically pulled up. We did work in conjunction with the Tutor.com technology department to get this done. It was done seamlessly. The students were able, probably 2 days after your company met with our team, to get them on. So every student, K through 12 in our district, uses it through single sign-on.
And what about you, Ms. Hunter?
We're a one-to-one school district. So in our ClassLink, which houses all of our student apps, it's actually there. So that once they do sign into their computer and go into ClassLink, it's right there with all their school apps for our students. And ours is K-12, so every student in our district has access to Tutor.com.
So both of you have established that it's a great program. It serves your students, it serves your families in a way that it serves your teachers. But let's be honest, when you are trying to have a new program in your school district, we have to get buy-in from our school board. And then sometimes there's some pushback. So, but I always like to say, why does your school board continue to support Tutor.com? What is it that resonates with your decision makers, those who push the green button and say, yes, we want to continue? What is it from their perspective that you know as far as why they continue to support Tutor.com? Ms. Hutton. I'll start with Ms. Hutton.
Okay, so for us, we do have to send in a report each year that it is approved when we're doing our contracts. And in that report, the school board kind of pretty much want to know particular areas of usage. Of course, we talked about algebra being one of our most neediest areas, so I have to do a full report on that. Also, student usage, a certain percentage of student usage before they move forward with, the next year's contract. And then they want to know the school buy-in, how are you communicating this with the schools? Are principals receptive? So I go through a pretty round table of questions before the board approves it. So that's for every product in our district for the most part, but particularly for Tutor.com, because it's not a curriculum. So they do have a lot of questions about this particular tool.
You mentioned you need principal buy-in. What does that look like for your district? When you say principal buy-in, is that a survey? Is that they have to check the box? And what does that look like from your end?
Well, not necessarily check the box. I work with a lot of principals in our district, and I love the principals in our district, especially our elementary principals, because those are the principals that really do want to make sure that our babies are getting what they need so that we are preparing them for secondary. So when I say principal buy-in, we don't want to put an additional thing on their plates with their schools, but we do, have those conversations, giving them the highlights of what Tutor.com will do for their schools. So it's not a mandatory, you have to do it, you have to do it, you have to do it, but we show them the brighter side of the usage and the brighter side of how this helps supports. Maybe you have, a few substitute teachers in your building that has been there with you all year. You may have a group of we call our TAP teachers, our teachers that are in the alternative program, how it will help those students at the end of the day. So our buy-in for the principals, just making sure that we're rolling it out, that we're in communication. I just sent to all schools probably 2 days ago. I got with your publication. I think that was your content creators, and they created a spring break flyer for me. And it is so nice. So we sent that home along with all of the AP webinars that are coming up. So we sent both of those flyers home. So it was my hope that when the principals saw this Tutor.com spring break flyer that they got excited because we have upcoming EOGs and EOCs, our Georgia milestones. So the students are able to, maybe we don't want to take their whole spring break. We want them to still have fun, but we're hoping that parents say, hey, 30 minutes of reading, 30 minutes of math each day, hop on to Tutor.com because you brought this flyer home. So hopefully the principals were appreciative of us sending home those things for the students.
Thank you, and kudos out to our marketing and our CSM team, Noah, who works with both Kimberly and Angela. Shout outs to Noah because they are, that's great to hear that your principals appreciate those marketing materials to be able to push out, because that's one other thing that's very different for us is that we want your students to know what's available. And the fact that you have the AP webinars is a very good example of how the merger or the marriage between Tutor.com and the Princeton Review. Because of course, for our AP webinars are from our Princeton Review test prep side, but still being able to provide that to all the students. So that's great to know that. What about you, Ms. Hunter? Because I know you coined the phrase, we were talking about what's the difference between usage and equity and access. And that's where when you came up with the insurance analogy. So
Yes.
tell us about your school board. What's important?
So intermittently, our superintendent does update in his weekly briefings. I'm not a part of it, but I do provide that information where he intermittently provides the usage in student sessions and students that have signed on. So he does update them with that. The good thing about Tutor.com, I must say, and the way our contract is, and I think many are the same, is that we don't have to purchase everything all at one time. So I am, just to make sure I'm fiscally responsible, I don't inquire about additional minutes or hours rather than what we purchase until we are nearing the end. And I feel the more hours we buy, the more our students are continuing to use it. So it's a fiscally responsible tool that you don't have to invest all this money and then perhaps it's not utilized. It allows us to look at some trend data and project. And I will be honest, every time I project, we use more time than I projected. The students, as you know, so seeing that usage, you can't deny that. You can see the need academically. Of course, we share assessment information and students' progress, but the need is really demonstrated that the kids are utilizing all of the hours. It's like, I am like, oh, we only planned for this much in our budget. I hope they don't need more hours, but I have a great school board and superintendent that does support, and also a leadership team here that supports if our kids need it. We're going to try our best to make sure we supply it. And again, it came, like Angela mentioned, from COVID, knowing our students had some needs that were a little bit different than we've experienced in the past. But I think even pre-COVID, this tool should have been, if we could have, I would have loved to have had it in our school system, because it's for all students. I think whether you're an A student or you're a student who's barely a C, you're going to have some times where you're academically challenged and you need some assistance. And this is just a great tool to wrap it all together.
And that goes to the question number 10, that would you say this is teacher driven, or is this something that teacher directed or student driven from your perspective? Because that actually is something that will actually affect your usage as well. Is it something that you find that your teachers are telling them, or that the students are actually driving the car, if you will? Angela, Kimberly, or go ahead, Angela.
So I think it's a combination of both. Simple because we do make sure the teachers are including it in their weekly reminders, their daily homework pack that goes home with elementary students. We do have teachers posting flyers around the building, or the parent liaisons. Because the flip side of that is because the teachers do not have accounts, they're not able to, track like they want to track the usage of the students. So that I will say that it is student driven, and that part of the program where the students are going in to request pretty much their own tutoring sessions, besides the ones that we use in our elementary where they're going in with the teacher to request them. So I would kind of say that portion will be both student and teacher, but mostly student, because the teachers don't have a direct access. However, 23-24, our school district will have access for all teachers, so that they will go in to look. So I'm excited about this new portion that we'll be adding for 23-24, especially with the high dosage. The teachers are definitely going to be able to see the usage. So I'm excited about 23-24.
Excellent, awesome. Ms. Hunter?
I agree with Angela shared. I do believe it's both, but I think there's a third entity. It's also parent driven.
Oh,
And I say that if you are a parent like me, with my elementary student, when we first started, she was in elementary school. Now she's middle. When she had a question, get on tutor.com. You need to ask tutor.com, because I may know the answer, but we all know as a parent, your frustration level might be a little less than what a teacher or a tutor may be. So the third entity is really once our parents are aware. It's the awareness. I wouldn't say that all of our parents know we have tutor.com in the school district. We've tried to educate everybody on it and make them aware, but again, until you need it, you may not look or search or actually remember it. So we're still a work in progress, making sure that our parents are aware of it. So that's something that definitely is a priority for us. But I think our third entity are parents. When you know about it, you say, get on tutor.com and I need you to use that tool, and get it done.
And our next question, it talks about what is the value of it? Because there's always a question when we partner with districts, their usage. And we understand that because you want to be able to put a particular value to the program. But we also work with some districts that say for us, it is more equity and access, is that we want to make sure that it's there for students when they need it. And specifically for them, the SAT and ACT portion, because oftentimes states will actually might test for the PSAT for all students, but let's be honest, all students may not have access to test prep. All students may not have access to an ACT or can go on to the Princeton review from the retail side and actually have or be able to afford to take a class. But with the SAT and ACT prep that's on here, it now evens the playing ground, if you will, for everyone in that school district for equity and access. Can you tell us a little bit more about how does equity and access play out in your district and when you look at tutor.com? Ms. Hunter.
Again, being able to, regardless of your home situation, receive that support. And it's not all based on the economics of the home. You have situations as I work all the time, so I'm not home to always that personalized support to my students. I don't want to think that it's just the economic piece. It's just really everybody's home situation doesn't allow to have someone there side by side when students get home to work on their work. But I would say that, as Angela has stated a few times, it's also the piece of having a Spanish speaking tutor. Being able to have a person that speaks your first language is very helpful to gain that understanding. So those two things are just very powerful for our students. And now that we have that tool, it'd be hard for us to let it go.
Thank you for that, because oftentimes when we think about students not having access, is mostly economic. We think about that. So thank you for making that point, that sometimes it's just the parent may not necessarily be in the home at the time, that it has nothing to do with economics. It's just more of accessible, your parents being there at the time. So thank you for that point. Ms. Hutton, what are your thoughts about the access and equity for all your students?
I think sort of the same grounds as Kimberly, just making it a well-rounded tool that's accessible for all of our students on all ends of our district. We are probably one of the districts in the state of Georgia who how can I put it? So we have most districts. We have Atlanta, we have Fulton, we have DeKalb, who has kind of two parts of the district. We have a district where I'm just going to be honest, where the resources are shifted more to one side of the district than the other. But in Clayton, we don't have a north and a south or east and a west. We just have Clayton County. So we do give access to all of those students because all of those students need the access. I think I mentioned earlier that we do have schools that perform higher than other schools, but all of those students still have the same access to the program. And also, as a parent, I'm a parent as well. I have a junior in high school, but he's not in this district. He's in the neighboring district over in Henry County, who do not have tutor.com. And this is something that I brag about all the time with Tanya. Like, Tanya, we have to get other districts in Georgia on board because I have a junior who chemistry right now is kicking him around. And I would, love to not have to pay for a tutor because it's, free access from our district for the most part. I know some districts probably charge their students, but there's the access with all levels of students in our district. So I think the value is that we're able to offer this free of charge. That's for one, to all of our students in the district.
And you make a very good point. The assumption sometimes when you think of tutor, you think of students. You may not necessarily think about students that might be in an AP course or students that might be in honors courses. To your point, chemistry, and it's good to know that students. I might be in an AP human geography course. I need a tutor. And as well as I am in Algebra 1 and I need a tutor. So it's good to know that is what you just stated in regards to your son in chemistry. So my last question I have for you. Now we've talked a lot about how you've implemented Tutor.com, why you're using it, the benefits for your teachers, for your students, and for your students. But if you're talking to other districts and they're thinking of partnering, because this is a true partnership, partnering with a company, what were some of the things that you looked for, or some advice that you might provide for other districts that they should think about when they're thinking of partnering with a district for an online tutoring program, on demand, tutoring partner? And Ms. Hunter, I'll go with you, Ms. Hunter.
I would look at, of course, cost. That cost drives many of our decisions, but beyond that, student needs. Does this meet your student needs? Does it meet your demographics? Also, the timely response of the company. Are they flexible? Are they tech support? That's a big thing for us. One of our meetings may be on what's the cost, but the other meeting is what's the technology implementation that always comes with it. And then also the company, when you're backed by Princeton Review, and that's, you can't deny that. That is for secondary options. That's a lot of our students participate in that. So knowing that backing is there, and then quality of tutors, knowing their vetting process, knowing that only 2 to 3% of the tutors that apply are able to make it to be one of the tutors. Those things are important. But it always, cost and need of our students. What are our needs? Because we're here for students' safety and instructional growth, but then the cost. And when you look at those two, it's very important. And then access, I've had a wonderful experience with all the different departments, very responsive. And if they can't solve it, they would definitely find another way. But that's important when you're forging this relationship with a company like Tutor.com.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Ms. Hutton?
I think Kimberly summed it up for us. For both districts, definitely cost. And a large district as Clayton, we have 55,000 students. So when you think about the cost in larger districts, we're going on the hopes that, hey, it works. And apparently it has been working for us because we're entering year 4 with Tutor.com. So you definitely want to look at that as well. Accessibility for parents. The students can log on 24/7 to request a tutor. So that's something that is grand for us as well, where they can just, hop on at, like we said, 2 a.m. and, request a tutor, or I have a big test coming up in 2 days and I don't feel comfortable. So let me, schedule 2 or 3 sessions at one time so that I know that they're there when it's time for me to log in. So definitely the overarching, and I hate to say it, is definitely cost for one. We have to make sure that we have it in the budget to do so. And then once we do get it, we want to make sure that the schools are actually using it, so that those funds aren't going to waste. So those are 2 big things that come up when it's time for me to propose Tutor.com every year is the cost and, Hutton, are they using it? Those are 2 of the big questions. How much does it cost and are they using it? So those are the 2 things that, districts will look out for. Just, looking at the cost and just making sure that you put things in place, strategies in place where your students and families are using it.
Great. Well, this is why you have over 45 years of experience of education experience right here on this panel with us. And as we look at some questions, I know we had a few questions that come through, but I always like to end a session on the positive. I do some facilitating with another organization. We always like to know what gives you hope? So as you think about your students and you think about everything that all of your students, your staff, everyone's has gone through in the last, 3 to 4 years, right? What gives you hope for your students in your school district? And what are your goals, or you see your students going from, not necessarily with Tutor.com, but what gives you hope, and what do you see your students coming up in the future? That's what I want to know from both of you as we vet some of our questions. You can think about that. And let's see if there are any other questions coming through. Okay. Oh, a question I had for both of you. What subjects do your students use the most? Yeah, they're asking for help.
I think we both can say at the same time, math.
Math.
I know. Math.
Is it middle or a high middle? I would say algebra 1, or which one for both of you?
I want to say for us, it's actually elementary and middle. I see the math the most. I see high school use more around the AP courses, but in the sciences and math as well.
So I would definitely see math in our elementary and middle school. And we do have those algebra courses that are taught in 8th grade and 9th grade. So we do have an influx in that. But we have started to see a lot of science requests that's coming through, and then definitely the writing. But definitely overarching, I would say math.
And for you, Ms. Hunter, the question was, you mentioned about progress reports that you push it out. Is that how do you push it out, the progress reports? Is that through your newsletters, or?
It's just in tandem. So we actually do a mass through our mass communication. So when progress reports are due from in every quarter or 4.5 weeks, then we have for school-wide mass communication, then it goes out through our Sunday calls. Hey, that Tutor.com is available. So we do it as a district and push it out that way. It's not a separate necessarily handout, although that could be something we did mail out, right? That we did send out electronically with, hey, if you need this, but we make sure that we communicate in our Sunday calls. I get them as well as a parent, that this is available in text messages. And we try to align it to when grades are updated. And that's something we tried more of this year, and trying to make sure that our parents were aware of it, which I think also leads to why more of our students are using it and we're having to purchase more time.
Got it. And then I had a question for Ms. Hutton. You mentioned that your students, that you provide the reports to your schools. The question was, do your schools go through a training every year? How often your teachers and principals trained each year?
So this year we've trained the principals once, our parent liaisons and our school contacts twice, and then we have an extended learning day where the teachers are going through PD, and we offered it once for the teachers this year. And then we had a large group of teachers that logged into the webinar that you guys offered. So we gave them that webinar on that particular week. And I think you guys built your webinar around our development day, and we were able to get that for the teachers. We hope in the upcoming school year, and I know I keep speaking of that we have more training for our teachers in the upcoming school year. But for this year, we did it twice for the direct contacts, once for the principals and once for the teachers.
And is it on your district's website? Does your district have a website for is it posted on your district's website as well?
So the shout outs go on the website, is not there continuously. But like the spring break shout out will be on the website for the entire week. We've encouraged schools to put it on the school website. So each school in our district have their own website. So we've encouraged them to put it on the school website. I know that's something you and I have talked about, Tanya, for a few months now, making sure it's a running cycle on the district's website. But we do the shout outs on the website. And then the students will see starting Friday, the spring break flyer that will run the entire week.
Got it. Well, and since you still have the mic, Ms. Hutton, what brings you hope? What gives you hope when you think about your students in Clayton County, and especially after what we've gone through with the pandemic? Tell me what gives you hope about your students?
So what gives me hope now is that our students in Clayton County, we're a very resourceful district, and we try to bring a lot of different resources to the students. We want them to be successful. We want to improve our teaching and learning. We know they're both and interchangeable. If the teaching is not where we need it to be, the learning won't be where we need it to be. So the hope for us is to produce students that performs in tier 1 instruction. Our RTI and our SST process is kind of a upside down pyramid right now, where we want most of our students in tier 1, but we have an influx of students in tier 2. So we're hoping to use tools like Tutor.com to kind of make sure that our students are moving back into the tier 1 core classes, and we are reducing the size of students needing intervention, even though that's my responsibility. I just want to see those students begin to move out of those intervention courses into core courses, but still use Tutor.com to support them even at that tier 1 level. So that is my hope, just as the role I play in this district, to get a lot of our students out of the tier 2, bring them back down to tier 1, and sustain it with programs like Tutor.com.
Well, Ms. Hutton, I know with you leading the charge and everyone that I've worked with in the district, that is definitely going to happen. That is a realistic goal to hope for sure, with your leadership. Ms. Hunter?
I would say my answer is twofold. I would say personally, the reason I entered education, my background is actually special education and of course, school leadership. And I will say that I really got into this race to make sure students had the equal opportunity to be competitive post-secondary students and wherever their option was. And that has been really what drives me. I want to make sure, regardless of where you come from, what you look like, what your home situation is or is not, that you have opportunity to be just as competitive. I've been in a huge school district like Cobb, had a wonderful experience here. So being here in Rockdale is just as wonderful. It's more family oriented, where my other county was huge, and we were able to learn different things from different perspectives. But with that being said, I want to make sure all of our students are able to be successful regardless, and they have equitable access. That's just something that's personal to me and what drives the work, even on the hard days. Professionally, I will say, as a former principal, you sometimes buy all these programs and you don't really know if they're impacting your student achievement or not. You can see progress monitoring and things of that nature, but this tool is very aligned. Students will dial in, it's student driven. I need it, I'm receiving it, and I continue to use it. So, being a former principal, it's a clear vision of there's a need and is meeting that need because they're continuing to use it. And then the commentary, where sometimes you may have a program and you think it's impacting student achievement, but you're not sure. So you're not sure if you're fiscally responsible, or is it just that, so it allows me to have a great vision of it's student driven by their needs, it's supplying that. And then I have a great company like Princeton Review that they actually are also preparing themselves for as they become seniors or juniors. Well, really, it'll be 8th graders, it's PSAT, but as they prepare for more, formal tests. So those are my two.
Well, I want to say thank you, Ms. Hunter. The students of Rockdale, are blessed to definitely have you as part of their leadership, as well as you, Ms. Hutton, with your intervention. I know the hopes that you have for your students. I know that all of that will come in fruition for all of your students. I want to thank everyone who actually joined, and just know that this recording is going to be sent to others as well. And I want to wish both Ms. Hunter and Ms. Hutton a wonderful spring break, because in Georgia, everyone's going on spring break next week. Mostly, I think everyone's going on spring break next week. And then once you get back, I think it's testing immediately, right? Once you get back, they're going to be very focused on testing. It has been a pleasure to partner with you. I look forward to continued partnership. I am Tanya Walker with the Princeton Review, Tutor.com. Thank you for joining our Lunch and Learn. And as always, you may call me or you may contact me in my email below if you want to know more information. Thank you again, Ms. Hunter. I appreciate it. Thank you again, Ms. Hunter. Have a great rest of your evening.